Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Better Plays Ahead, where we try to predict the future in order to make you money betting on sports, the noblest of all professions. I'm your host, Matt Williams. Joining me is the living legend, Frank Ammirante. Frank, what's up, buddy?
What's up? What's up? Ready to turn the page on a disastrous week 7. You know, it happens. A long season. You just got to think big picture. Still up for the year. Looking to bounce back here in week 8.
I was not going to say anything, but I was gone for 1 week. Everything went to shit. What's up?
Well, Sam Wagman did a great job filling in. His picks were really good. But me, I just really got torched. So we're ready to, flip the script and get back to our winning ways here in week 8.
Yeah, all joking aside, the public got torched last week. It was like a historically bad week for public betting. Everything you thought was going to go wrong did. It was bad. So everybody, on today's show, we're going to go through, like usual, we're going to go through our best bets for NFL Week 8. We're going to talk about the upcoming World Series, what me and Frank think is going to happen there, and we're going to sprinkle in some NBA bets for this weekend. The NBA just started up. But like always, stay to the end of the show if you want to get our Thursday night bets and our parlay for tonight's game. Anyway, time to make some money. Let's just jump right into it and get to the chalkboard. And this is we weren't doing those anymore in my defense. But anyway, we're going to go to the chalkboard right now and talk about, all of our best bets that we think the public is going to be heavily on, but we're on anyway. This week it's a little complicated. At least the chalkboard's a little complicated because there was some bets I had lined up that I kind of backed away from. Specifically the Miami game, the chalkboard was complicated because Tyreek Hill's injury. I was fully expecting to take the Dolphins. Then McDaniels came out and even said, quote, "We will get Tyreek back at some point." And now right before we went on the air, the news dropped that Tyreek Hill is already back practicing.
What in the hell was that all about?
What?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? I mean, are you on that? They're -9. Are you on the Dolphins? Are you not? Are we waiting this out? I mean, he's back practicing. McDaniels made it seem like he might be out a couple of weeks with that quote.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy because I have Tyreek Hill on one of my best teams in fantasy football. But as for the bet, Miami should cover, but I'm staying away just because, I don't know, one of those funky division games maybe, like what we saw with the Patriots and Bills last week. So really, I'll stay away. But you know what? I can't really fault anyone for taking Dolphins at -9 or -9.5 because then you just need them to win by 10. You get that key number. So if it's higher than that, I'm definitely staying away. But as for now, we'll see. But it's a tough one.
And I was almost going to jump on the Eagles as well. We already saw the Commanders play them tough. Commanders probably should have beat them that game. So I'm staying away from that one, even though I do feel the Eagles are probably going to win and cover. You're a Commanders fan. You know how they play up and play down to their competition. Are you any interest in that? Because
actually, sorry to chime in, but yeah, I'm actually on the Eagles in that one, just because I think with the way Sam Howell is taking so many sacks, he's holding the ball too long. I know there's some pass protection issues, but you got to blame some of that on Howell. He holds the ball really long. And I think against that Eagles pass rush, you're going to see that negatively affect the offense more than it did in their previous matchup. And I think the Eagles will control this one more than what we saw in that overtime thriller earlier in the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I really wanted to take it. We usually do about one game each for the chalkboard. I backed away and I instead put this game in. So here, everybody, here's a bet that I'm actually taking. Raiders at Lions. Lions -8.5. I believe last time I checked, there was like 90% of public money was on the Lions, and for good reason. Clear mismatch. The Lions are 9th in the NFL in expected points added. And their second ranked offense by PFF. Vegas is horrendous. Rated 26th versus the pass and 31st versus the run in EPA. Terrible. On the flip side, PFF has the Raiders as the 7th worst passing offense in the NFL, 2nd worst rushing offense. Jimmy G's favorite target is the other team. Eden Hutchinson, the Lions defense is much better. They're top 10 against the run in EPA, 14th against the pass. This just looks like it's just a beating waiting to happen. It's in Detroit. Just why is this only 8.5?
Well, I guess with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, the odds makers think that the Raiders offense will be much better than it was with Brian Hoyer. And maybe, the Lions aren't really the team that have, they're just newly good. It's just recent. They're not used to being like that. Yeah. it's not used to, we're not used to seeing them like -10, -11. So I guess that might be why, but I'm with you. I love them here. The Lions got really humbled last week against the Ravens, just got whooped, 38-3 or something. This is like a bounce back spot. I think they're a well-coached team under Dan Campbell, and I think on primetime Monday Night Football, they'll just really take care of business here and win in a convincing fashion.
Yeah, the Lions are a young team, hungry after a bad loss with a coach you want to run through a wall for. The Raiders have a completely confusing coach that the star player completely hates, I think. Although, God, a squeaky wheel game is something we don't need. But again, I'm not that worried because it's Jimmy G at the helm. So yeah, we got here Lions. We have them smashing the Raiders minus 8.5. Frank, what is your chalk play of the week?
My chalk play of the week is the Cowboys at home, -6.5 over the Rams. They're coming off a big win against the Chargers, and then they had the bye week. And it really comes down to the fact that, A, we're getting it below that key number of 7. So all we need Dallas to do is win by 7 points. And the main reason is the Cowboys are dominant at home. They've won 8 in a row there. During that stretch, they've averaged 36.25 points per game. And if you look at their winning margins in that stretch, four of them were by 20 or more points. So they really blow teams out when they're at home in Dallas. I know the Rams, they got Kupp and Nakua, great passing game, but I don't know. Their offense seems to, it looks nice, and Stafford's playing much better than last year, but it's not translating into points like we think it should. And again,
the bad Stafford has peeked his head out very recently.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Against Pittsburgh, he was not very good, and now on the road against a really tough Dallas defense, who, like I said, excels at home, especially like Dak and the passing game and the running game with Tony Pollard. I think we'll get on track because we saw the Rams recently struggle again in defending the run. Like Najee Harris didn't look that bad last week, and Jaylen Warren. I think Tony Pollard gets going, and Dallas, they could win easily by 7 or more. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a double-digit win. Look for the Cowboys to win their second in a row coming off the bye.
Yeah, the Cowboys' defense isn't what it was. They're obviously injured and not up to par, but are up to what we thought they could be. But yeah, this feels like maybe hey, remember the Cowboys' defense? They're really good still, and we could see a defensive touchdown here.
Yeah.
Or 2, but I definitely expect some turnovers. So that is the chalkboard. That is me and Frank's main plays for the week as far as what we're jumping on the public with. But Frank has a play here that we think you absolutely should stay away from because it is a trap. So yeah, it's aforementioned name.
It's a trap.
What are we avoiding this week, Frank?
We're avoiding Arthur Smith's Atlanta Falcons, -3-point favorites on the road, coming off a win on the road against the Bucs. And it's really because I think, Will Levis, I think, could give some energy to this vanilla, bland Titans offense. He could throw it downfield more. I think Treylon Burks might be back for this one. I think Tennessee's going to win this game. Mike Vrabel is undefeated coming off the bye. Like, for as bad as the team is, and I know they just traded one of their best defensive players in Kelvin Byard, but Vrabel is a very good coach, and I think he'll have his players playing hard in this one. Their run D has always been good the last couple of years. That's the strength of their defense, which could neutralize Atlanta's strength, which is run offense, and put Desmond Ridder into position where, he has to make plays with his arm. And I think that's going to be a recipe for disaster in this one. This kind of reminds me of the game where the Bengals went in Tennessee earlier this year and got blown out around 27-3 or something like that, because Burrow obviously isn't himself and he was really struggling. I think the Titans will get some pressure on Desmond Ridder and cause him fits all game and win this one. So despite the fact that, you have a rookie playing for Tennessee at quarterback in Will Levis, I lean Tennessee here. Ooh.
Don't say Arthur Smith's name too many times. If you say it 3 times in a row, he'll probably appear like Beetlejuice and then start defending his horrendous coaching takes. The more confusing is on the Tennessee side. You mentioned Will Levis, but the coach mentioned that Malik Willis could get in too. He said that he could be using them both Who knows what to expect there? Again, we have no idea what to expect the Atlanta side. So I'm with you. It's just a confusing game where I don't want to invest any money in this on either side because I don't know what the hell is going to happen. So I'm with you on there. So that is the trap play we're going to avoid. But right now we'll get into the meat and potatoes of NFL Week 8, and we'll get right into the betting board. Right now, my main play for the week, I was waiting because I didn't know if we were going to get a drop or not. My main play for the week is the Jets, the New York rivalry here, which I don't know why this is so close. Jets -3 at the Giants. The Giants suck. I mean, the Jets may be shorthanded on offense, but they're no joke. They took down the Bills. They took down the Eagles already this season. The Jets have the 4th ranked defense this season, and they take on the worst offense in the NFL by DVOA and the Giants, who are also not at full strength. I think Breece Hill is going to just run the clock, run the ball down their throat, run down the clock on the Giants' 26th ranked run defense, and the Jets defense will just take care of the rest. It's that simple. I just think it's just going to be possibly low scoring, but with the Jets absolutely dominating the entire time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I love what we're seeing from the Jets. I want them to keep winning just so we could see that perhaps miraculous return from Aaron Rodgers if they're in the playoffs. That would be wild. But, the Giants, one thing I do like is they're starting to condense their usage of wide receivers. They're starting to use their rookie more, Jalen Hyatt, who gives them a downfield threat. And even though they've struggled in the season and Daniel Jones is likely back for this game, I do think they're a bit better than what we've seen. But having said that, if I have to pick a side, it would be the Jets coming off their bye. Yeah, it is their bye. In this, basically, it's like a neutral site for them.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
I mean, this is low only because we don't expect this, just because it's a low score. I mean, the Jets are. I mean, no. What do you think? Because you think the Giants are much better than they've shown. But I mean, the Jets have shut down much better teams than this. -3 just seems like. I mean, if it was any higher, I'd probably just stay away. But -3 just seems so simple.
Yeah, I think the Jets will win. When I'm saying the Giants, I think they're a bit better. It's not like they're this playoff team like last year. I felt they overachieved all along. But I do think, they'll be competitive in this game. But give me the Jets to get another big win.
All right. And now Frank's going to try to sell you all on Sam Darnold. Go.
All right. I'm taking the 49ers. And it's not that I love Sam Darnold. It's just that he's in a terrific situation under Kyle Shanahan's amazing offensive scheme with an assortment of elite playmakers. Trent Williams, hopefully he's back. Obviously, I'll like him more if he is, the left tackle for San Fran. He didn't practice this week so far, so we'll have to see. Looks like Deebo Samuel is out. But having said that, Darnold can lean on Ayuk, Kittle, and McCaffrey. I think one thing we have to consider is perhaps Darnold's emergence in the offseason. Maybe he showed Kyle Shanahan enough that Shanahan could trust him as a backup, and that's why they were willing to trade Trey Lance before the season started. I think they feel comfortable with him coming in. Like, I know Brock Purdy has played well and has been a perfect fit in this offense, but I don't think like he's this superstar that it's going to really affect the offense overall. I think Darnold has the physical traits where he's put in the right position to succeed like he is here with Kyle Shanahan. I think he'll do enough that keep the offense on schedule and have them win this game. And I think the defense will step up. Joe Burrow coming off the bye, we're expecting that he's a little healthier and we'll start seeing the Joe Burrow of old. But until I see that on the field, I'm going to bet against it. I need to see proof because he's clearly affected by the calf injury all year. PFF passing grade, he's like 22nd among quarterbacks. In advanced stats like completion percentage over expected or EPA per play, Burrow's near the bottom. So I really need to see it before I start believing in him more. And against this San Fran D on the road, it's really a lot to ask. Look how the 49ers have been at home. They won 11 in a row there and completely dominant. 10 of those 11 wins were by double digits. I think they win here, and I got it at a terrible number early in the week before Brock Purdy's injury. In fact, I bet this before the Niners-Vikings game even finished. I got it at 5.5, which looks awful now, but I still like them to win. I think they'll win by 7 or more. Darnold will do just enough. And the Brock Purdy detractors are going to have a lot of material. They're going to be like, oh, Sam Darnold needs to start. See how Darnold did what Purdy could do, blah, blah, blah. But having said that, I think Darnold does enough, and the 49ers win here.
All right, so Frank thinks Sam Darnold's going to win MVP. I hope everyone took notes. I don't mind this pick. I don't necessarily believe Sam Darnold will be anything beyond bad, but the 49ers dominate at home. Their defense didn't look good the last time out. They'll have something to prove here, and they could win this game with Christian McCaffrey alone. So I'm okay. I think I agree with your pick, but for like kind of like simpler reasons. My next bet is a prop pick. George Pickens for 53.5 receiving yards, minus 115. This seems low. Pickens has crushed this total in 4 of his last 5 games, going over 100 yards in 3 of those, including the last 2 versus Baltimore and the Rams. Pittsburgh may have a terrible pass block, but Jacksonville has the 29th ranked pass rush. So even Steven, maybe. And Jacksonville has allowed 6 players to eclipse 90 plus yards receiving in the last 5 weeks. So that's 90. We only need 53.5 here. So I don't necessarily believe in Matt Canada and the Steelers offense, but 53.5, Pickens can get that on a one play, get maybe 2. So, I think that this is a very strong line, and I'm not quite sure why I opened up so low.
Well, I totally agree, because also to your point, the Jags are really good at run defense, and that like Pittsburgh will probably have a tough time running the ball in this one, resulting in them have to air it out. And Pickens has had a great year. Perhaps it's this low because Deontay Johnson is back. But having said that, with Pickens' skill set as that downfield threat, as you mentioned, he can eclipse this in 2 catches, even 1. I'm with you. Love it.
And for the last play for the NFL, before we get to Thursday night later in the show, Frank, your last play of the day.
Yeah, so this is the perfect buy low spot for Devonta Smith on the Eagles. Like, he's had 3 duds in a row, and AJ Brown has been putting up 125 yards every game for 7 in a row, something like that. So it's the perfect spot because we're getting Devonta Smith at a low number, over 49.5 receiving yards. Now, if you look at his game log, he hasn't really eclipsed that often. But my rebuttal to that is that he's much better than what he's shown so far. This is a receiver who in his second season last year put up almost 1,200 receiving yards. This season, he still has a 21.9% target share. For context, 20% and over is quite good. And Smith gets targeted downfield. His average depth of target is 12.6. So what that means is he's a deep threat, and he can really eclipse this number, and similar to Pickens in 2 catches. It's only 49.5. We only need 50 yards. Not much to ask. Now, look earlier in the year, Smith against Washington, he had 78 yards, comfortably eclipsing this total. I remember last year when the Eagles came to Washington, Devonta Smith had 169 yards in that game. The Eagles had a 24-0 lead at halftime, and Smith had 156 yards at halftime. So he just torched the secondary, and then he did nothing in the second half because the Eagles just walked to a win and just ran the ball. But that just speaks to how this is a great matchup for Smith to finally, get that spike week and show us why he was so highly touted in fantasy football drafts and why he's one of the best young receivers in the NFL. If that's not enough to sell you, Washington has gotten killed by receivers this year. Like Stephon Diggs had a big game against them. AJ Brown, Marvin Mims got loose downfield. DJ Moore went absolutely nuclear against them. So we only need 50 yards. Let's go Devonta Smith.
Yeah, plus this is a narrative thing, which is not necessarily the best thing to look for betting. But not that I have a problem playing AJ Brown's over. I think that's probably a good play too. But he's gone over 100 yards game after game after game after game after he's squeaky wheel whining tantrum on the field, which thank you for doing that. It's been great to watch since. Eventually teams are going to try to put the clamps on him. Not necessarily believing Washington can do that, but it could leave Devonta with some single, some one-on-one coverage, maybe getting loose downfield, like you said. So it's going to, I think, make the ability to maybe get that 1 or 2 big plays that you can just snap this up in a hurry. So I absolutely love that. So those are our main NFL plays for the day. Stay tuned to the very end of the show to get our Thursday night play. Right now, we're going to switch gears. We're going to go over to baseball as the World Series is just about to kick off tomorrow night. Whenever you're listening to the show, that'll be Friday. We're not going to go through every single game, but since we're doing this weekly, it's right before the World Series starts. So we're just going to talk about who we think is going to win the World Series. Right now, Diamondbacks, Rangers, the most unlikeliest of pairs. I can't even imagine what the ticket would be if you actually put them both in. Oof. D-backs plus 145 as the team of destiny to try to get this done. Rangers home field advantage at minus 174 looks kind of evenly matched from a pitching standpoint. Rangers pitchers have come on at the right time. D-backs, arguably, I mean, Zach Gallen started off good in the wild card round and against was it against the Dodgers?
Yeah,
around
or the Brewers.
the Brewers, and then and he kind of went to sleep against the Phillies, got rocked a couple of times, but and the Rangers offense is very dangerous. So right now I am going to go with the Rangers and the chalk here at minus 174. I think they're just going to be a little bit too much for the Diamondbacks to handle. The Diamondbacks seemed, even though it was a 7-game series and the Rangers went to 7, the Diamondbacks almost looked like they needed a little bit of magic. If it wasn't for Craig Kimbrell, the Phillies would be in the World Series right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I do like the Rangers, but I wouldn't touch this series future because like laying minus 174, it's not really appealing. I'll target them game by game, but maybe they're not giving enough respect to Arizona because they're such an underdog getting to the World Series. But having said that, I do like Texas. Their offense is so good. Evan Carter just adds another level to them, like because he barely played during the regular season. He just came on late. So really, this offense is just spectacular. And Nathan Eovaldi has been terrific all playoffs for Texas. And to go along with Jordan Montgomery, who already came into the playoffs looking great. Really, entering the postseason, we were concerned about the Rangers' rotation because it was Montgomery and then a bunch of question marks. And Eovaldi addressed that by really pitching much better than what we saw from him like in September. And then, Max Scherzer is back and healthy. So that gives them even though he's struggled, that gives them a nice 3 on paper and to go along with their offense. I think they win in, let's say, 6 games. But it'll be interesting. And even though he burned me in Game 7, I'll be looking at Brandon Pfaadt's under on 1.5 walks. Nathan Eovaldi under 1.5 walks. He's shown elite control. And it's going to be an interesting series. Hopefully it's as exciting as what we saw in the championship series.
Absolutely. I mean, me and Frank will definitely be tweeting about this game by game. So follow us on Twitter and all other social media if you want to bet the World Series game by game. Going before we get to Thursday Night Football, the NBA, got to talk about it. Love the NBA. I got my Sixers shirt on right now. Don't have a lot of hope against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, but we're going to, the tip-off just happened a couple of days ago. And right now we have odds up for Thursday and Friday games. So we're going to talk about a couple of bets that we like. Before we get into it, I got to say, you got to be very wary about betting on the NBA early due to injuries and load management. You know me, I love betting early. I love jumping on lines in MLB and NFL, but NBA is a completely different monster. I know there's rules in place that try to prevent load management this year, but look at Devin Booker. He wasn't going to play game 1, then he played, then he went off. He had over 30 points, and now he's not playing tonight. It's fine. It's load management. Even though there's a rule that says you can't sit nationally televised games, he's sitting. So you never know what's going to happen. So we are giving you our picks, but definitely try to wait until closer to game time for at least the games that we're going to talk about in the future. For tonight, I love for Sixers versus Bucks. Love Tyrese Maxey over 22.5 points. Minus 105 at the Bucks. With James Harden gone, it's a wheels up for Maxey. The offense should be funneled basically through 2 guys, Embiid and Maxey, even though Melton's going to be, involved. And we're going to see, hopefully maybe Tobias Harris take some more shots. But Tyrese Maxey over 22.5 I like. And one that's going to go right into your first bet for the NBA. I love Joel Embiid over 32.5 points plus assists. I assume the Bucks are going to try to clamp down Embiid, which is going to lead to him passing a lot more, especially with Harden off the grid. So at minus 108, 32.5 points plus assist. I like Joel Embiid, but you like Embiid for a different bet.
Yeah, so I took Joel Embiid over 28.5 points, and that's a great point you make in that he could get more assists this year with James Harden gone. But really, I just kept it simple with one play tonight, and it's this one. You look at what he did last year. He averaged over 30 points per game, and he went over this number in 44 of 66 games, good for almost a 67% hit rate. It's really that simple. He's going to get a ton of usage, and he should get 30 plus in this one. But, we'll see. The NBA, especially early in the year, could be tough. I'm just dipping my toes into the pool here, so to speak. We'll see how it rolls.
And a good reason you wait until closer to game time. Sometimes the books cannot move fast enough on lines. Chris Middleton, they came out and just stated, Coach Adrian Griffin stated he is going to be very limited tonight. Only 12 minutes max that he played in the preseason after an offseason knee surgery. So right now, I wouldn't mind you just playing under points plus assists, but I'm playing under points, rebounds, and assists under 20 and a half. Earlier, I was going to have, and you see on the screen, points and assists is also 16 and a half at plus 100. You can get under 20 and a half points plus rebounds plus assists at plus 100. There's absolutely no way he clipses that amount in 12 to 15 minutes, whatever he's going to see tonight, especially with a lot of the balls being funneled through for Giannis and through Dame. So I decided to go all the way up the ladder because, yeah, you can pick one or a single stat, but he could go off in a particular area. I would stay away from maybe just trying to isolate assists, because if he's not trying to do too much, you could just be looking to pass the ball, but there is no way he's going to produce over 20 and a half points plus rebounds plus assists. So absolutely love that. And before we get to Thursday Night Football, 2 plays for Friday that I do like, but again, wait these out. The Pistons +5 at the Hornets. Hornets didn't look terrible during their opening game. They won, but the Pistons looked great against a very good Miami Heat team. I love what I saw from Cade Cunningham. Maybe he takes that step forward that everyone's been waiting to see. Jalen Duran, I think next year, he's a guy that can go in like the 3rd round of drafts. And Oscar Thompson, the rookie, just set the record for 5 blocks, the most for a non-center in his rookie debut. So I think +5, that is very generous. So I like the Pistons +5, and the Rockets at Spurs +1.5. Were books watching the Mavericks game? Other than Wemby being in foul trouble, the Spurs looked really good against a decent team. The Rockets, very bad. I mean, the Spurs looked legit. The Spurs looked incredibly competitive. Like, they had a few very game players on the field. So, and the Rockets, they're next level shitty. So the Spurs at home +1.5. Yes. Why aren't they? They should be favored. So yeah, absolutely love that. Any thoughts on those games before we jump into Thursday?
Yeah, it surprised me to hear that the Spurs are home underdogs. Maybe there's, like, this happened to me last night. I looked at the Suns. They were 5.5 point underdogs against the Lakers. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. I dug in and it's like, I found, okay, Devin Booker's not playing. Maybe there's a report that you or I haven't seen yet, that maybe someone's questionable, because these NBA injuries are always like last minute and sometimes sneak up on you.
Wait these out. And again, Wemby, he was in foul trouble, so it limited his minutes. So for anyone worried about load management with him, he should be fine, because he by default had to play less minutes. So definitely wait, like Frank said. Injuries come out of nowhere, reports go out of nowhere, but keep these in the back of your mind and bet them on Saturday if it's still looking favorable. So Thursday Night Football, everyone. For everyone, you were rewarded for coming and staying to the end of the show. We're going to get into our bets, and we have quite a few, including a parlay we really like. So Frank, kick us off here. What do you like for Thursday Night Football for the Buccaneers at the Bills?
This is a perfect get-right spot for the Bills. I got them early in the week at -7.5. Still willing to take it at -8.5, even -9.5. I think they will win by double digits. Maybe this turns into a blowout. Everyone's down on the Bills. They had an ugly loss to the Jags. They lost to the Patriots last week. They almost lost to the Giants at home. Here's a spot where Josh Allen could just pick apart this pass funnel Tampa Bay defense. They've allowed 2 300-yard passers this year in Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins. I think Allen will find Stephon Diggs early and often in this one. And you look at Buffalo at home. Aside from that, Giants win, which was like 14-9, they've been consistently blowing teams out when they've been at home. So in their last 15 home games, 13-2, 9 of those wins were by double digits. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Baker Mayfield is a bit banged up. Chris Godwin's a bit banged up. Tampa Bay is starting to look who we thought they were coming into the year, and that is one of the bottom feeders in the NFC. And I think the Bills roll tonight. Big game for Allen, big game for Diggs.
I agree. Diggs, definitely, and we'll actually talk about the little bit in our parlay. My first bet for Thursday Night Football, James Cook over 18.5 yards. I've done so well this year on betting these low bar running back receiving props, and we're going back to the well here. You want no part of James Cook's rushing prop. He's probably going to get really shut down by the Tampa Bay defense, but Cook through the air has gone over this total 18.5 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. And Tampa Bay loves to give up big plays through the air to running backs. They've done so on several occasions this year, and they rank 6th worst in the NFL in yards after catch per reception to running backs. So 18 and a half yards, that's not a lot to ask. The Bills are going to get, smothered a little bit through the run game. Josh Allen's obviously going to get his. He can't help himself. But James Cook over 18 and a half yards. I know I saw you mention this too, Frank, which made me love it even more. What do you think about James Cook?
Yeah, absolutely love it. I hit this one up too last night when I was digging into this game even deeper. You mentioned how they've given up big plays. Tampa Bay, that is. They've given up big plays through the air to running backs. I got it right here. Tyler Algier had a 46-yard catch against them. Craig Reynolds had a 28-yard catch against them. Khalil Herbert, 23-yard catch. And David Montgomery, 19-yard catch against them. Now, you could even take James Cook longest reception. It's like 10 and a half. Given what we've seen from Tampa Bay's defense against running backs. But Cook's already a good receiving back. And given what Tampa Bay has done to running backs in the passing game and allowed them to do, 18 and a half isn't really much to ask. And Tampa Bay, like you mentioned, is stout in run defense. I think James Cook could get 30-plus receiving yards in this one.
Yep. Like you said, the data looks like a longest reception is good, but those are iffy. And that they're going to go to him through the air, which makes his receptions prop look okay. But let's just combine the two and the longest reception and receptions and go with receiving yards. So absolutely love it.
Yeah, exactly. Because what if Cook goes for 40, 50 receiving yards and his longest catch is 9? I would be tilted if that happened. So I want to avoid that and just stick with the receiving yards.
All right, Frank, you have a bet over in the other backfield.
Yeah, I started taking this last week, and I'm going to go right back to the well, and that's Rachaad White. I got under 46 and a half rushing yards. He's gone under this number in 4 of 6 games. He's been, quite frankly, literally the one of the most inefficient runners in the NFL. He's averaging only 3.2 yards per carry. I know I got some pushback on Twitter about that, about how Rachaad White has had a really tough schedule, but I mean, come on. If you're a good runner, it doesn't you're not going to be averaging that low. You're not going to be that efficient, even if it's a tough matchup over the course of 7 games.
Elite usage with backup production.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a negative game script it profiles as, because Tampa Bay's 9.5 point underdogs. So that means they're projected to play from behind, probably down by 10. You're going to see them pass more, and that will work out for White. And he's great as a receiver. He can make some plays in the passing game. But as a runner, he's just really inefficient. He should be, I tweeted this last week, he should be used like James White was back with the Patriots. Remember when James White would barely get any carries? It'd be strictly as a pass catcher. I think that's Rachaad White's best role. I think soon enough, or if someone emerges, Tampa Bay will realize that and just use White as such. But until then,
they literally don't have another option.
Yeah, that's the thing. They need someone to come out of the woodwork to show something as a runner. But having said that, yeah, I'm going to stay under. Even if he gets 14 carries, he could stay under this number. I'll take the shot and go back to the well.
Speaking of game script, my last play for Thursday Night Football is Mike Evans over 59 and a half yards. Not quite as confusing as Pickens here, because we know Evans can tear the roof off this prop, but he is wildly inconsistent. Always has been. Bills defense has not been the same since Tre'Davious White went down with his Achilles injury, though. Mike Evans should be able to take full advantage of that. 5 different wide receivers have hit this over in the last 3 weeks. 5 in the last 3 weeks. So plus, just as Frank said, Tampa Bay can't run the ball. They will not be running the ball. So I expect to see plenty of passing volume versus the Bills, which makes 59 and a half at only minus 105 a pretty solid bet.
Love it. I took this one as well. Like you mentioned, the Bills have struggled against receivers since Tre'Davious White has been injured. You mentioned 5 of them have clipped this. I got the numbers for you. Calvin Ridley, 122 yards. Christian Kirk, 78 yards. Darius Slayton, 69 yards. Kendrick Bourne, 63. And Wan'Dale Robinson, 62. And, Mike, a couple of those receivers like Bourne and Robinson, they're more shorter targets for them. Evans is a deep threat. He could just fly over this number. And he's been, terrific with Baker Mayfield all year long. He's a candidate if you want to do a props ladder and try to do, Mike Evans 75 plus or even 100 plus receiving yards. It's in play as well. I love this one.
Yeah, and that's the end of our normal plays for the end. So here is to very excited about this prop. I don't know why. It just seems like such a great number for only 3 plays. So for the Thursday night football parlay, me and Frank have cooked up a 3-leg parlay for you. The Bills covering at -9. Mike Evans hitting over a 57.5. This is over at DraftKings, 57.5. So you give him 2 yards less. And Stephon Diggs to hit over 100, hit over the century mark. And you get plus 750 on those 3. I mean, those seem pretty likely things to happen, in my opinion. So for only 3 legs at 750, this is actually one of my favorite parlays I think we've put out for Thursday Night Football, and we've hit some pretty big ones.
Yeah, I absolutely love that one. We talked about Stephon Diggs, how we think he's going to have a big game. I'm going to add another stat for the listeners. Look at these wide receivers against the Bucs this year. Justin Jefferson, 150 yards. A.J. Brown, 131. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 124 yards. And DJ Moore, 104. Stephon Diggs, if I'm not mistaken, he's gotten over 100 in honestly, 4-5 times this year. Yeah, I think this is a great spot for him to do so as well, once again.
Theory before we get off the air here, Stephon Diggs, are like, all right, you love him for plus 100. Why didn't you mention just his receiving prop with the rest? Something with these high bar receiving props that I don't like betting them straight as far as the over under that's listed, because you're like, I got 89 for Diggs. If he has a bad game, just things happen. He only gets 3 or 4 catches. That's a high bar to clear. But if he does clear it, they tend to clear it by a lot more than just hitting it, which it's not like 34 yards. So if I'm going to bet Diggs, I love here going 100 yards. But if I were betting it as a single bet, I probably would either do the latter, or I would just do the century mark anywhere, or go play, I would go an alt receiving yard. So how do you feel about going for just those high totals for wide receivers? Because that's just something at least I've found I like to do, where, if they're going to go over this high total, you might as well, why do -110 for 89 when you can get plus 100 for, plus 125 or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I'm making that up.
Yeah, that's a great point, because like you said, these big alpha, stud wide receiver ones, when they do go over the receiving yards prop, they fly over it. I do totally agree, and you get better value if you take them at 100. But Diggs has been so consistent this year, and it's not like, say, A.J. Brown that has a Devonta Smith next to him, or a Tyreek Hill who has a Jalen Waddle. They just have Gabe Davis, who's really volatile and boomer bust. So Diggs is really has a high floor, and he's one of them that I'm totally cool staying with his, I think it's 86.5 receiving yards. I took that as well straight, but I love this in the parlay also. Big game for Diggs.
I didn't mean to shoot down him. It's just more, he's the guy we're talking about. It's more of a general
Makes sense. No, that's a good point. I did notice that.
So everyone, again, plus 750, Bills -9, Evans over 57.5 receiving yards, Diggs over 100 plus receiving yards. That is the big parlay. Thank you for listening to Better Plays Ahead. Make sure to follow us every Thursday at 3 p.m. live at the Game Day NFL on Twitter, on Facebook. Go to the Game Day. What is it? The Game Day Action over on YouTube. Sorry, we have a couple of different places. And yeah, make sure every single Thursday, hop in the chat. Frank, where can everyone find you and your wonderful rankings? This guy is at the top of the tip top of the hill every single week, almost, it seems like, in NFL fantasy rankings. So if you're playing fantasy football, make sure to follow Frank as well.
Yeah, so you can find me at all social platforms at Ammirante TFJ. My rankings are posted and updated several times per week at thegameday.com. I've been red hot, 3 top 15 finishes in the Fantasy Pros contest out of 200 in the last 4 weeks. Looking to keep rolling with that. And, also check out our fantasy football newsletter at the Game Day. We have a lot of great content there from a bunch of our talented writers on the site. But let's bounce back from last week, me in particular. I'm confident. I went really heavy on tonight's game. I have a lot of picks. Let's win.
All right, everybody. Good luck. Let us know what you're tailing. Let us know in the comments section on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you follow on social media. And we'll see you next